think we all know that skateboarding very much happens in waves. The trends come and go. Things are hated and then they're loved. Things are canceled and then they are uncanceled, and we're on both sides at some point in time. Just like anything else, people's opinions are switching and swaying based on what the powers that be, whoever the hell they are, tell us what's cool and what's not cool. And obviously the skateboarding huge moguls, companies like Thrasher and the Barracks and Braille and Transworld, are obviously not immune to that. Me growing up, most of my friends and a lot of the skaters that I knew never really gave a shit about Thrasher because they seemed to be like pretty heavy on the pool skating side and transition, and they didn't really like speak to us. And then at that point in time, like videos, like full-length videos were really important as far as like swaying skateboarders' opinions on things. And Transworld was just running the show. Transworld was just like murdering at video after video, all the way up until I'd argue Cinematographer Project. After that, it kind of off for me. But Thrasher videos always sucked. Like, not that they sucked, but like if you go and watch Sight Unseen and then you watch Rocket Science right next to each other, like, it's clearly there's a winner. And so, yeah, we didn't really give a shit about Thrasher that much. It just seemed kind of, and like all the 666 pentagram stuff is always, since day one, I always thought was kind of corny. Skip forward a little bit. Now, Thrasher is so far on top. Like, I mean, insanely on top as far as like that world of skateboarding. But something interesting did happen. Skateboarding is no longer this one thing with all these subcategories in it. Skateboarding sort of broke off into two separate things as far as the industries go. There is now what I would argue is like a core industry, which is going after, like, how can I say this? Like the progress of skateboarding, difficulty, tricks, a lot of emphasis on aesthetic and gnarliness and technical skating, a lot of skill-based stuff. But also, like, you've got a foot in the fashion industry, let's be real. A foot in, like, what's being cool. Definitely a foot in, like, what's trying to be relevant. And then the other industry over here is, I guess you would call it more of an influencer world, or a world that is trying to be more inclusive outside of skateboarding. Look at it any which way you want. You could say that they're trying to be more inclusive because they care about other people, or they're trying to be more inclusive because they just want more money, and there's more people who don't skateboard that do skateboard. However you want to look at either worlds, there really is like a difference. And the Barracks was very much so in this world. And over here you have a world that arguably Andy Schrock and Aaron Cairo kind of crafted. They sort of created this world of inclusiveness and not really caring about being cool at all. They're just like, oh, like, this video will probably do well because it's clickable. Or, oh, I believe in this and I don't want to have to curse in my videos because I want to reach a wider audience, or because I personally don't curse. It's definitely more of a PG version of the skateboarding world, which this fucking world over here hates. I think there's a lot of reasons, but that's a whole separate video, why these two things are separate entities. But the Barracks has been over here for a long time, and the Barracks also was a very loved website for a long time in the skateboarding world. And I think that it's because the layout and the concept of the Barracks was very, very clever. And I think a lot of people might not remember what made the Barracks so great at first, including possibly some people that work at the Barracks. When I think of the Barracks, I wouldn't think of that they were at the top of like what gnarly skateboarding was going down in the sense of like video parts and stuff like that. They did have video parts on their website, but really Thrasher was more of like the meat and potatoes of that side of the world. But what was great about the Barracks, especially when it first started, was there was always sort of this, I guess, thirst from a lot of skaters to see skateboarders as like people. You know what I mean? Like, when you get a skateboard video, you would watch the video parts, and then the credits would happen, and then you'd have the after the credits where it was like kind of B-roll and like just like the guys hanging out, and you get to, like, you know, sort of see these skateboarders in their natural habitat when they're not, you know, trying their hardest on a toy. They're like just regular dudes, and like that was always fun to watch. And what was cool about the Barracks was it almost seems like it put a lot of emphasis on this idea. Like Skater Dice, seeing skateboarders struggle with flat ground tricks, and the First Try Friday, seeing like, oh, how good is this skater really? Or, I don't know, like the Off the Grid was really awesome. Like you basically would get to see how a skater would react, like your favorite skaters react in like a situation that they didn't plan out. Like they're just skating down random streets. And, you know, you see videos like Wednesday with Reto where it's like a guy just literally talking shit to other skaters. And it was kind of interesting to see like this legendary skater get made fun of by this photographer who, at that point in time, most of us only really knew about him from Chomp on This, where he gets water thrown on him and was not excited about it. Or Skate Maps if you're really nerdy and you watched him on that, which he was definitely, him and Jeff Pang and Harold Hunter on that was definitely the best shit you could ask for. But anywho, the Barracks had that, and then they had their private skate park. And the other amazing thing about their private skate park was you got to see skateboarders performing at their top level, as in, you see a skate video, you get to see someone jump down this gigantic handrail and deal with all the difficulties of nature, right? Like stuff that wasn't built for skating. And that is more exciting, in my opinion, to watch. But the idea of being able to see, well, what can this incredible skateboarder do if everything's perfect? If the run-up is perfect, the rail is slightly lower, everything is forgiving, everything is in his favor, what is possible? And the answer is you get to see tricks that you're not going to get to see in the streets for a couple years, possibly. You're almost seeing the future of tricks that are going to go down in the streets inside of a skate park. And that's why, you know, I think the Battle Commander and the Bang Yourself, and not the Bang Yourself, but the banging and stuff like that, like seeing these really intense video parts were just like so rad. Even though it was in a skate park, I was like, well, this is like possibly as good as it could get. And then you'd see like in their video part, like they do like the same trick on something in the streets. And I don't know, I thought it was just really rad and a very good model for a skateboarding website. Well, you skip forward a little bit and the Barracks isn't doing as well. Definitely, I remember feeling less, I'm just gonna be honest, I just didn't give a shit about the Barracks. Nothing that they were really doing was really resonating with me. So what happened? Did they veer so far away from that formula that I was just talking about that it was no longer the same thing? Did the Barracks actually change? I honestly think, though I do believe that they did change up the format a little bit, I think the bigger part to the equation of what started killing the Barracks off is they were no longer the main place that you could get that information about these skaters' personal lives, seeing their personality, seeing them kind of goof around with their friends is always fun. Like seeing someone who's like at that top tier level, how do they dork around? And usually it's pretty funny. I think everyone always liked watching footage of in old girl videos like Eric Hasen dorking around and just how insanely talented he was. But yeah, you didn't need to go to the Barracks to get that because all of a sudden we have Instagram, and Instagram became skateboarding in real time. You don't even need to wait for video parts to see someone's enders anymore, because it's just going to get posted on Instagram. And then all the skaters dorking around, all their personality, you can watch their stories. I mean, you're literally getting that exact experience that you would get in the credits of a skate video, but every single day, all the time, which is honestly why I think, you know, you have this whole influencer thing now, because it's just like, man, I have like basically a spotty live stream of every person I've ever looked up to, which is probably, when the time comes and they do studies, it's probably the worst thing ever. But it's definitely entertaining. And I know a lot of people, when they follow skateboarders, I mean, they follow them very closely, much like a celebrity in anything, which is, it's kind of crazy. It's definitely crazy. But yeah, the Barracks is no longer unique. They have to readjust. They have to find a new audience almost, or at least a new shtick, while holding on to the old vibes that they used to have, which is probably impossible to juggle. Which, you know, and there's other things. I mean, and maybe it's just because I got older, I cared a lot less about, you know, skateboarders' personalities and stuff like that. But another amazing thing that the Barracks was doing was, I forget what the show was called, but they would have things where they would talk to skateboarders about like different stories, and skaters would come on there and like tell like some insane, mind-boggling triumph that they had. That one kid who had a 1% chance of living, the Barracks did this thing where like they donated a bunch of money to him by selling shirts, And, you know, the kid ended up, like, I think almost going fully blind, and he still skates. And, you know, they did a whole series on him, and I remember being really invested in that. And if you haven't seen that one story where the kid gets shot by a shotgun by, he was like his friend was in a gang or something like that. It's a mind-boggling story to where, like, it's hard to watch and not get teared up. I don't want to spoil it for you, which I kind of did. But I'm going to try my hardest to put the link to that video in my bio. This stuff like that they did in that realm of, like, this is skateboarding, this is about skateboarding and nothing else, was very appetizing to me. But regardless of that, I did tend to grow away from it. And I don't know if it's because the content wasn't as good or because you can only consume so much of that before it gets boring. But regardless, it seems as though at some point in time, they saw their channel wasn't doing as well, their website wasn't doing as well. Maybe some of the bigger names weren't trying to, like, work with them as much. Because if you remember in the beginning, it was like Andrew Reynolds was in there one day, and then, like, literally all the top pros, like Tony Hawk was in there one day. Like, every possible skater who's been in a video game or was just a top name, even core skater guy, was just going to the barracks and filming stuff, and it was super sick to see. But yeah, we just all started slowly losing interest, and it feels like they sort of looked over at Braille's model on the other side of that line that was drawn in the sand, where it's like, that's like the elephant graveyard. That's a dark place. You can't go over there, because once you go over there, there's no coming back. I think that maybe they were looking at a couple of their numbers, though, and were thinking, how are they doing so well? What is their strategy? Now, the Barracks has done some sort of similar content in the beginning. I don't know if you know this. The Barracks is actually who did the Walmart skateboard stuff before Braille did. The Braille kind of went like the Amazon route and sort of changed it up a little bit, but that's sort of like a copy their homework type situation. But also, I mean, obviously, Braille didn't need to do that. Braille has a million videos that do super well. I'm not saying by any means that Braille has any success that they owe to the Barracks. The Braille did everything on their own, but it is funny that the Barracks did do that concept first. Anyways, they seemingly started getting a little bit more clickbaity, it feels like, because they were looking over at Braille and seeing, like, okay, they're doing these extravagant things with skateboards, but the people who are doing it aren't necessarily top tier skaters. We have access to the best skaters in the world. What if we did sort of similar type stuff, sort of clickbaity-esque material, but with, like, the best skaters in the world? And they did, you know, I think that's where they kind of came up with the concept of, like, the fastest this, the fastest that. And that was a hit for them. I think this video still do pretty well. And they did some other stuff that I think also did well for them, some other concepts that were, in my opinion, a little bit pulling away from what I think of when I think of the Barracks. But regardless, it was working for them. But the other thing that Braille did, because Braille doesn't give a flying fuck about being cool, which is in this climate a superpower, is they would work with influencers or people who weren't necessarily the cool guys. They would work with kind of whoever, just nobodies sometimes, or people who just have a big following, people who are corny and cringy and silly and don't curse, and people who have no affiliation with any sort of skateboard company that is considered valid, right? And I feel like the Barracks slowly started dipping into that pool too, which if you're on this side of the line, you cannot go anywhere near, at least it's more acceptable now, but when the Barracks first started doing it, like there's no, you can't do that. And so when they started letting in more influencers, I think that really, though the views probably spiked for a minute from that, I think that really shot them in the foot as far as being considered legitimate, right, or core, I should say. And I think maybe they were thinking they could trade like these kind of viewers for these kind of viewers, and maybe it would do something like that. But really, you only got like a little bit of these viewers, and then this went like down pretty far. Now, their views are still doing okay. And I guess you could argue bad publicity is better than no publicity, but there's countless videos on YouTube of just talking shit on the Barracks, specifically Steve Barra. People dragging everything about Steve Barra into their hatred for him, everything from his fake spots to his religion, which is interesting that they're really centering him, because Eric Costin also owns the Barracks. Eric Costin also took Scientology class. Eric Costin also skated fake skate spots in Fully Flared, but those are just like, sort of some of the reasons that the people hate Steve Barra. The other reasons is the way that he responds to people, the captions that he puts on his videos, and how he just doesn't really like it. It seems like anytime anyone talks some shit, he really seems to need to address it, which is just a bad idea. And you're going to lose 99% of the arguments just because you're on the internet, man. These keyboard warriors, they are studied up. So with that going on, and then now the recent drama with the battle at the barracks, you know, they have the influencers, which I personally think is pretty genius, because that's bringing in not only the audience of the people who care about the influencers, but the people who fucking hate the influencers and want to watch them get fucking smoked by an actual pro skater or a top level amateur, which is why those views are on par with every other battle at the barracks. Now, they're not crushing them by any means. The views for this battle at the barracks doesn't seem to be like destroying the views for the other battle at the barracks, but they're definitely doing better than some of the other years. But regardless, the drama that is surrounding the barracks right now, I think, is driving up views a little bit. But the question is, when those views go away, is the barracks going to fall back down into where they were right before they did the battle at the barracks, which is not very good. Like, are they actually like on the way out? And I just did a bunch of like scrolling, and there's websites where you can look at other people's analytics and sort of trying to figure out what is their trajectory right now. I can tell you right now, they're definitely trending down. They're trending down pretty steeply. Now, almost every YouTube channel right now is trending down pretty steeply due to the month that it is. Views across the board, from the Braille to John Hill to Vsauce to any YouTuber, unless the newer creators get pushed in the beginning. So if they're like probably like under like 6 months or something like that, they might still be on an upward trajectory, but definitely it's slowed down. It's not as steep as it was. But regardless of that, if you go even further back, they were already on a pretty steep downward trajectory. And the question is, are they going to be able to make a comeback? Are they going to be able to turn it around now that they're sort of like in this almost purgatory of between being in this core world? Because they still have some people that fuck with them, you know, they still will do shit with, I don't know, Andy Reynolds or someone, but also they have all these influencer things, and adding the Cariuma to the whole thing. Oh my god, what a trigger word Cariuma is. Just like the most hated company right now, by far. And Barracks is definitely ambassador of that shoe company, and they are pushing that shoe company really hard, which is, I think it's hurting both companies. I think they need to break up. That is a toxic relationship that needs to just be split apart. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the sales are translating to Cariuma and they're actually doing okay, but you very rarely see Cariumas in the wild, so I don't know. And then the other thing, Bright Skateboards, another very, very, very hated company. Now that one, I don't know if they're so hated because people hate the company and the direction of the company and the team that they chose, or because it is so heavily affiliated with the Barracks. In fact, it is a Barracks company, or at least a Steve Barrett company. I don't know which is which, but I know that Cariuma is getting hate, and also the Barracks affiliation is not helping it. So it's, yeah, that's just a whole fucking train wreck. So I honestly think that it is possible for the Barracks to make a comeback. I think that the way in which the Barracks could make a comeback is just to go balls deep back into the old way. I mean, you can't talk shit on a company if it's trying to do the right thing. I mean, you can, but you're going to look like an asshole if you do. And I think if they went more on focusing on like the good of skateboarding, not in like a corny, like, we're all skaters and I love you because you can kickflip. Like, that shit's fucking stupid. I think to do a kickflip thing is fucking god awful. I hate that shit. I don't care what celebrity you ask me to do a kickflip. I'm not doing a fucking kickflip. If they change course from like that stuff and go back to, I don't know, like if they did the contest where like you had your crew and the winner of the crew gets to come film like a segment at the Barracks, because you put, you know, it's like every crew films a different video and then you voting, and that involves the audience. And I always thought that was a cool concept. And seeing like, you know, my friends try to film a video and like, oh, maybe we're gonna get flown out to the Barracks and compete in some contest, which I think is how it ended. I like that. I like the idea of like contests that lead to the finals being at the Barracks. It's more stuff like that, more, I don't know, like such obvious promotion of the brands that you are strongly affiliated with. Like, I think that's all just, I don't know. No skateboard company really is advertising on the Barracks anymore, which I guess does kind of free them up to a point where they don't have to pay too much allegiance to, well, we can't talk shit on Stereo because the winner of this contest gets to get flowed by Stereo, and they sponsored this, but you know what I mean? Like, well, obviously that's the situation that they're in with Karyuma and Bright. But other than that, I don't really know anyone who's too involved with the Barracks. Liquid Death, I guess, which is another company that, like, I don't know what the fuck they're doing. But it's water. I like water. I would like a water sponsor, not that one. Vitamin Water would be, not Vitamin Water, Smart Water. If you're sponsoring, let me know, because you make some tasty water. I could see them going in that direction. I could also see them not going in that direction, and maybe they sort of become another Braille type entity, and like maybe they'll just go all in, but they cannot stay in the middle. I think that they're going to have to end up on one side or the other, because they are just getting eaten at by both sides, having a foot in each door. What actually will happen, I don't know. I don't expect them to go under, at least not anytime particularly soon, but I do think that it is a possibility, because fuck man, Transworld went under. And Transworld was like the guys. Transworld fucking ruled. I love Transworld. Best skate videos. The magazines were always good. They were really fucking thick. They went the skinnier route a little bit later than everyone else. Thrasher, I think, was the first one to really slim down. Well, unless you count Skateboarder, which was always thin. But anyways, yeah, it is... I don't expect them to necessarily go under, but if they did go under, I think it could happen in the next couple of years. We'll see where they go. I haven't lost faith in what they're capable of. Not because I have a particular love for the Barracks for what they did, but I see the resources that they have, and I see like the facility that they have, and I would just love for all that to be used for stuff that I would like to watch. And that's selfish of me. I'm not saying I should be their target audience. I mean, I'm not. I fucking am very much stuck in the old ways of the videos that I watch and the type of skateboarding that I like. Even the music that I like to edit with the skateboarding is very much dated to like 2002. So I'm not the target audience, but I would like them to maybe find their own way. Maybe they don't have to be the core way or the influencer way. Maybe there is a in-between that they can find that's its own world. I don't know what that thing would be or if that's actually a possibility, but some things I would like to see. It'd be cool if they brought back some old segments. I know if they brought back Wednesdays with Redders, a lot of motherfuckers would watch that. I definitely would tune in. That would be super rad. Another fun one that I think would be kind of cool, that I don't know if they'd be able to swing it or not, but some rematches from old Battle of the Barracks matches that people really liked, like rematches of the finals. Or I would love so much to see Chris Cole versus Dennis Buznitz again, because that's, in my opinion, the best game that has ever been played. Watching Chris Cole do those very technical tricks and then watch Buznitz pushing as fast as he fucking can and also landing those tricks. Even though Buznitz lost that game, he definitely won that game. I don't care what anyone says. That game was such a fun watch. Something like that. I don't want to say that they should keep putting more chips into the Battle of the Barracks, because they're obviously kind of milking that a lot right now. But I mean, whatever. It makes sense. It's definitely paying off for them. But yeah, bring back in some old skits. There's definitely some room for some... I don't know, like maybe a couple more interviews with like the owners of skateboard companies. It'd be interesting for someone to be a little bit more revealing or telling of the actual behind the scenes of skateboard companies. And when I say that, I don't mean let's talk to Ed Templeton about Toy Machine. I mean, let's talk to the owners of Tamieto, the actual people who are really running Tamieto about like what's going on, or people who have some stories. Skaters love skateboard gossip. I'm sure if you got Chris Sen on there to talk some shit about some stuff that happened, sort of the route that 9 Club is going, where it's like in-depth stories with skaters, I know that they could probably milk that for a couple of years. That would be kind of fun. And you know, in all honesty, 9 Club's not even playing the core card. A lot of people think that 9 Club is pretty corny when you got things like, you know, like the Bunt and the Fancy Lad podcast, which I did an episode with. And I swear to God, I will link it in the bio. I think I mentioned it before and I didn't link it in the bio. But yeah, there'll be 2 links in the bio. I'm going to remember. I will remember the links in the bio. But yeah, it's just stuff like that. Maybe pull away from the influencer stuff a little bit. It's just kind of, I don't know, it just feels obvious that they're doing it. Maybe they're in too deep. Maybe they can't pull away. But personally, the football player guy, the professional NFL football player that they had come skate the Barracks, that was fine. It was cool to find out that an NFL player was a skateboarder too, but maybe less of the bringing people who are like that into the Barracks. I don't know. I don't really, it just seems not great to me. But then again, maybe those videos are doing really well. I have no idea. I didn't check the views. If they're doing really well, don't listen to me. What the fuck do I know? I have a YouTube channel that by is no means anywhere near your level. Also, more Costin. If we could have more Costin in the barracks, I think that would actually help. Actually, I think that if they switched out Costin and Vera for just like a year to where like Costin was writing all the captions and writing on like EK instead of, you know, SB, I think that would be pretty fun. I think him having the reins would do the company a lot of good because he's still considered this core legendary skater. And I feel like Steve Bear sort of has his name drugged through the mud so much he's sort of just blown out and done. So it's more Costin. Let's try that route. The eras. A new era! There you go. Instead of the barracks, a new era, reversing the names. Fucking, I just fixed the barracks. Pay me. Fucking pay me. Yeah, that's what I think should happen. Anywho, if you like this video, please like it, leave a comment, subscribe if you like what I have to say. Also, I mostly do skateboarding on the channel. It's not a lot of talking, but right now, I'm in too much pain to skate because I have a gigantic bladder stone and I need surgery. So, anywho, yeah, do that stuff. It means a lot to me, and it helps me continue to do this.